actors and actresses make these multi-millions. A few short years later, they're bankrupt. She had like $500,000 sitting in her checking account. She was afraid to do anything with it. You don't make any big financial decisions when you're navigating the grief and the trauma.
Welcome to Inspired by Success, the podcast where I deep dive into the mindset of successful entrepreneurs, CEOs, and thought leaders. Get ready to be inspired and gain valuable insights to unlock your true potential.
Transform your financial future with this episode sponsored by KE Financial Services.
You know that feeling when numbers go in one ear and out the other? Well, today's inspiring guest is making it her mission to change that, especially for women navigating major money moves alone. She's a financial coach who helps ladies leap from confusion to confidence when it comes to cash flow. With decades advising big banks under her belt combined with her own journey as a single mum, she's passionate about empowering women to gain control and peace of mind with their finances, no matter what curveballs life throws at them. I'm super excited about today's guest because I just really want to learn about finance. So without further ado, welcome to the show, Patti Handy.
Thank you, Linda. I'm so happy to be here. I appreciate you having me.
You have such an extensive financial service experience. What made you transition into financial coaching, especially specifically for women?
You know, I had spent so many years, decades and decades in corporate America and working in various roles in the financial services world. And I had so many conversations with ladies, especially those that were going through divorce or were widowed or just, single. And there was a common theme. They were embarrassed, they were overwhelmed, they didn't understand investing, they were, fearful. And I really wanted to reach these ladies on the education piece, and I wanted to empower them with the information that they need so they can become their own investor. They can become comfortable with managing their own money and not look at investing or managing their money as some big scary thing in the sky that only the really super smart people understand, because investing in itself really isn't all that complicated if you just keep it simple, which you can do, honestly.
I totally agree. And it's so important too, especially for entrepreneurs and business owners. Managing cash flow is super crucial as well. But you focus on divorced and widowed and single women. What unique money challenges do you see them faced? Especially, when they freshly, divorce is already a complicated thing, having to split the finances and whatnot. But what challenges do you usually see?
Yeah, for those that are going through a divorce or recently divorced or recently widowed, they're dealing with the emotion and the grief of their loss. They're dealing with the trauma of their new life as they know it now. They've lost their spouse. They are trying to navigate life on their own. Oftentimes the husbands took care of the investing and they didn't understand, they didn't deal with it. So they just let their husband take care of it. So now not only are they dealing with the trauma and grief of loss and the emotions that go along with that, but they're dealing with trying to figure out life and trying to figure out their finances. So it's a very scary time for them because it's like, I don't even know where to start. I don't even know what to look for or look at. And it's overwhelming. It's very scary for somebody who's never done the investing or done the managing of the money on their own, and to now feel very isolated and by themselves in doing this. So I always suggest that you don't make any big financial decisions when you're navigating the grief and the trauma. You cannot make a good financial decision when you are, emotionally, dealing with that life. And I went through a divorce myself. And so I understand that journey of the grief and the trauma, especially when it's raw and it's relatively new. You just can't make good decisions. So if at all possible, push pause, on whatever you've got to do to make those decisions. And don't feel pressured to do something unless it's something where you do have to make a decision because of some timing with an investment or whatnot. But more times than not, you can, take those assets, put them in a very simple account and not look at, how to invest those. So if you're dealing with somebody who's trying to sell you a product or something and they're pressuring you, don't feel pressured. Please just walk away.
So for women starting over financially after a major life change, what should their first few practical steps be?
The first step I would say would be the self-care. Obviously, once they're depending upon where they're at with that state in their life, take care of themselves. Really get righted up. I was upside down for a very long time, and it took a while for me to get myself sort of my bearings back. My son was 18 months old at the time, so I was dealing with a toddler at home, and I was trying to navigate that. But once you're out of that area of the black cloud, if you will, you've got to really start with getting a good handle on where you are today. So what that is taking a good hard look at what money you need every month to pay your bills, from your rent or your mortgage to your groceries to utilities, car payment. I mean, the whole kit and caboodle. Whatever it is that you need every single month, you need to understand what that obligation is. And the best way to do that is to look at your checking account and your credit card the last 3 months or so, and determine what it is that's been going out, and then take a look at what's coming in, whether it be from a job, whether it be from if you're retired and you've got pension or social security, or child support or spousal support, or whatever income is coming in. You've got to get an understanding of where you are at today, and that's their starting point. And the other side of that is your net worth. So you're looking at your assets. So if you own your home, if you own other rental property, if you own 401ks or IRAs or any other investment portfolio, that's your assets. And then you subtract out your liabilities. So if you have a mortgage on that home, if you have debt against a car, if you've got credit card debts or whatever, the difference between the assets and the liabilities is your net worth. So it's giving you a snapshot today, and just that information alone gives you some sense of, okay, here's where I'm at, and either I need to make more money because I've got a shortfall from cash flow, or you realize, okay, I've got enough money that I've got some positive cash flow, I've got some wiggle room, and now I can start to look at what to do with that money, whether it's paying down debt or investing it or whatever it is. But that exercise alone, as simple as it sounds, is a very powerful step to take.
Wow. And in terms of the mindset, what money mindset shifts tend to be the most important for people to make? Because, like, for example,
Yeah, the
me,
money
I
mindset
get
is a
scared with money. Like, sorry, I just wanted to say, before, years ago, my mindset against money and managing cash was like, oh my gosh, it's overwhelming. I just don't want to think about it. I'd rather let somebody else handle it for me. Now I have to look at the numbers day to day in order to grow. You need to do that. But what's the first mindset like the first money mindset shift that needs to happen?
Yeah, the money mindset and our money story is a conversation that we can talk about for an hour. It's really important for us to understand what our money story is, which really originated from our childhood. So what limiting beliefs do we have going on in our subconscious programming, and
Mm,
what those limiting beliefs are preventing us from doing. So those beliefs, and I usually call them limiting beliefs because they are limiting beliefs, create our thoughts. And our thoughts then create our actions, which create then our results. So if we have this mindset of, oh, this is overwhelming and scary, I don't know how to manage this, it's being aware that, okay, if we just break this down and we really start to understand the mechanics of this, it isn't all that hard. It's also super important to understand if we came or were raised in an environment, and it's really from like age or from birth to about age 8 is when this subconscious is like a sponge and we're just absorbing everything as reality. We are hearing input from parents, grandparents, aunts, uncles, teachers, coaches, whoever that we're hearing, and oftentimes that message is of lack or scarcity,
mm,
or
mm.
rich people are greedy, or you have to work really hard and grind and hustle to make money, and if you're not, the money shouldn't be coming to you, and some of those negative things. So again, that's subconsciously rolling in your mind. It's looping in your subconscious mind, so that when things happen out in the world, the results, um, you're triggered by these limiting beliefs. So the first step really in making that change, kind of to speak to your question, is being aware of what those limiting beliefs are. Stop and think about, okay, what did I hear? You won't remember anything when you were born, obviously, but what did you hear growing up when you were 10, 11, 12, junior high, high school? What kind of conversations were happening at home? Was it around scarce and lack and fear, or was it around abundance and prosperity and there's enough money to go around for everybody? And so just being aware of what those messages were will give you a better understanding of what limiting beliefs are playing in your background. And then we go through a process where we poke holes in those limiting beliefs and prove them wrong, prove them to be false. And then we go through this process of retraining the subconscious mind by various ways to do this, which takes time because we don't turn our brain on a dime. But there's processes. And the good thing is that our brain, we can change the neural pathways in our brain. So if you think, oh, I'm just going to live like this forever, I'm screwed, no, you're not. You have the ability to, um, you know, make the changes, but it does take effort and work on your part.
Yeah, like I totally agree on that, especially growing up with nothing. A lot of people might have nothing when they grow up, especially as immigrants as well. But then that lack mentality, like the scarcity mentality, is there. And when they get money, oftentimes I see it's like they want to spend it on so much, so it's hard to even keep. And that's like in general, like that's common with people that come into wealth. It's like a lot of wealth. You see it. They like if people that win the lotto, they just blow it in a few years because they're not used to having so much wealth. But what are your thoughts on
Exactly.
that? And how can we, make our money last once we get our hands on a lot of money? How do we, make it? Like I know that there's investments and there's certain investment vehicles that we could do, but in terms of the mindset, how do we, make
Yeah.
it grow instead of just
Yeah.
spending?
Yeah, great question. And you're absolutely 100% right. The lotto winners, you see, these pro athletes who make multi-millions, you see, actors and actresses make these multi-millions.
Mm,
And, a few short years later, they're bankrupt or the
yep.
money is gone. And they subconsciously repel money. They don't consciously do it, but they subconsciously repel money because their behaviors, which are part of their thoughts, is back to their loop. So, one of the first things is I recommend seeking help. If you truly are somebody who knows that you've got some challenges, um, seek the help of a financial advisor who will take some of that money and invest it for you and help you manage it. If you have no experience at all with managing money, that's probably a good place to start. It's hard to trust yourself with that kind of money, especially if it's multi-millions and you've never had that and know what to do with it. And it's worth getting the help of an advisor, financial advisor. Also include your CPA. Also include maybe your attorney. And just seek the guidance of professionals and experts that can guide you with that, because you will, blow through it. And it's not to say you can't have fun and you can't have some, go play with some of it, but protect it by making those good choices. And kind of to your point as well, um, as a result of our limiting beliefs and what we've heard growing up, we have this sort of internal thermostat, and the internal thermostat is a level of income that we are comfortable with based on what we've made, what we've been around, and that's our safe and secure, and that's sort of our comfort number. So when we suddenly come into money, it's like, consciously we're thinking, woohoo, let's go, and this is fantastic. My worry, my financial worries are over. But subconsciously, you're like, oh my gosh, holy crap, I don't know what to do with all this. I got to get rid of it because I don't know what to do with it. And your brain's doing all this stuff that you don't know, aware of. So that thermostat, keeps you safe. So subconsciously, you're like, okay, I need to be safe and come back to this number. So knowing that these are all at play, just in itself, if you're aware of this, you're mindful of this dynamic, all the more important to get some help and have somebody on your side that's going to protect you and watch over you.
Yeah, you mentioned a good thing about people with the money thing, but I heard something on a podcast about money as well. Money is energy as well, so you don't want to hoard it and keep it, but you have to find the balance of not overspending it as well. So I guess
Correct.
um, investing and making it grow is crucial. But what key financial basic foundations do you teach with the women that you coach?
The women that I coach, I teach them how to. Well, there's a lot of things that I teach, but especially when we're dealing one on one, I'm starting where they're at. So whether they're dealing with fresh divorce and they're trying to figure out what to do with their assets, or whether they're dealing with debt, they got to get out of credit card debt, or they need to figure out how to make some money, they want another job. There's all kinds of things that we discuss, but a lot of it is teaching them about investing, teaching them how to manage their own monies. I cannot give financial advice anymore. I was a financial advisor. As a coach, I cannot do that anymore. So I can't tell you, oh, put 10% of your portfolio in this fund. And I can't tell you that, but I can teach you about that fund. If I see that a Roth conversion might make sense for you, I'll explain to you what a Roth conversion is and why it's good and what to look for, the pros and cons. And then I'll explain, here's what you want to look for, and talk to your CPA if you're a candidate, because your CPA knows your tax situation. They know your tax bracket, and a Roth conversion might put you in the next tax bracket. So it might not be a good idea for you. So I give them that information, and just managing money, dealing with the cash flow, dealing with the unknown, rebuilding their credit potentially. We talk a lot about credit. And interestingly enough, there's a lot of life coaching that goes into financial coaching. There's oftentimes conversations with my clients where we're having a conversation and we'll have a session and we'll have zero conversation about money. And we're just dealing with challenges in their life and where they're stuck and where they need help with. And I'll recognize blind spots and we'll kind of unpeel and unpack whatever's happening. So it's, part financial education, part financial strategy, part life coaching.
Wow. You mentioned credit as well. Like, I'm curious to know, what are your thoughts on how can somebody get out of credit card debt fast? Because some people, like I know somebody that just keeps using credit card debt and just paying off for years and years. But I think the financial basic foundation isn't there. But what advice and tips can you offer in terms of people for people that are in a lot of credit card debt? How would you recommend them to pay it off as fast as possible?
Yeah. So there's a couple of dynamics here at play. One is kind of coming back to that money story, and that is, how do they get there in the first place? Because
Mm.
if suddenly, if they've got $50,000 of credit card debt and suddenly they came into 50 grand somehow and they can pay it off in full, it's fantastic, right? They're thrilled. But unless they understand the habits that got them there and the emotional spending that got them there and some of those pieces that put them in that place in the first place, then they're going to be back there at some point in the future. So they've got to really get to what that's about. Now, it could be that, and I'll be completely transparent here. When I went through my divorce, and I was the money person, I'm the one in the marriage that dealt with the money and the investing. My ex-husband didn't understand investing, and so he let me deal with it all. And post divorce, I left my corporate banking job to have my son, and I was unemployed at the time. So I was using credit cards to pay for groceries for a while, and it was like, I'm racking up grocery credit card. And I was like, I knew it was like the wrong thing to do. And every time I did it, I'm like, oh, this is horrible. And
Mm.
it made me cringe, but I had no option. I had a lot going out, little coming in, and that's what it was. So if you've got credit card debt because, of a job loss and you're just dealing with, that thing, that's another situation. But if you're dealing with credit card debt because you just, there's a lot of emotional spending going on, you get that dopamine hit when you have a bad day, you're bored, you're emotional over something, and you need that hit. That's where we want to uncover what's going on. But from a strategic place, there's two ways to pay down credit card debt. There's the avalanche method and the snowball method. And without getting into too much detail, basically one looks at paying off the lowest interest rate card first, and the other is paying off the lowest credit card balance first. So my first recommendation is take a look at your credit cards, what you owe, take a look at the interest rate that you're paying on that card. And more times than not, people don't know what the rate is on their card, which is surprising. But what's
Mm.
the rate? What's the amount outstanding? What's the minimum payment? And then look at, like, okay, the highest interest rate, can I call them up and have a conversation and say, I just came out of a divorce, I'm in a world of hurt, I don't want to claim bankruptcy, I don't want to go down this route, I need some help, can we lower this interest rate, Can we get some help in terms of, paying less of a balance? Some of those things might hurt your credit score temporarily. So just know that you might have a hit to that. But if you're not planning on buying a home or a car or anything anytime soon, it might be worth it for you to sort of navigate that. But have a conversation with those credit card companies and see what they can do, to pay down, or to lower that interest rate, because that will help you, pay that down
What's
faster.
the chances
The
that they will actually do that, though?
I've heard some do. Yeah, if they know that you're, in dire straits and that you're thinking about bankruptcy, at what point they would get, virtually nothing, then they're willing to work with you. So I think some are more willing than others.
Mm.
Um, and it just, it's worth a call. It's absolutely worth a call. And I don't really recommend, unless you're dealing with a nonprofit, some of these debt consolidation companies, that you pay for, I haven't found one that I love. Let's just say that. Some of the nonprofits that do that, yes, that get the help from some of those. There's no ulterior motive when it comes to that piece. But psychologically, it feels better to have a credit card paid off. Like if you got one card with $200 balance, and the interest rate's 10%, and you've got another card with a $3,000 balance at 28%, just paying off that smaller credit card, it just makes you feel good. It's like, oh, I got that one done. Okay, now I'm on to the next one. So that propels you to keep going. So we work, closely with clients, and again, it's very individual. Depends on what's coming in. Depends what's other happening. What's ever going on in their world, and we work towards that.
Wow. So, what? Let's talk about some investments, because you mentioned you can't offer advice on where to invest. But let's take it back. What common obstacles or fears hold people back from getting to, to invest in things?
The biggest obstacle I see is that they just don't understand it, and it's the paralysis by analysis. They're not comfortable with it, so they figure, oh, I'm not going to do this right now. I'm just going to wait.
Mm.
I had a client once, years ago. She had like $500,000 sitting in her checking account, and
Wow.
she was just afraid. She was afraid to do anything with it. And I said, okay, and she had no need for it. She was working. I think it was a settlement from a divorce. And it was one of these things where she wasn't going to touch this money for years and years and years. So she was losing out on a huge amount of opportunity because she was just so afraid. And that fear just comes from not really knowing, not understanding. So it's important to kind of walk through that. Okay, let me just help you understand what it is that you're doing. Maybe we go into a bond fund, which is a very conservative fund. It's backed by, if you're doing a government bond, it's backed by the government. It's not going to earn you a lot, but it's a lot more than it's going to earn you in a checking account earning 0.0001%, right?
Yeah,
Um,
inflation too, because people don't realize that leaving your money in a bank is just letting it eat away because of inflation. It's not going to be worth anything. So you might as well invest it in something, even if it's just a tiny bit,
yes. Yeah,
Some people just don't have
absolutely.
that risk appetite, and it's understandable, but it goes back to the beliefs and the upbringing, I think, too, because we invest in Bitcoin and stocks as well, but we try to encourage the mother-in-law to do it, and she's just so afraid because I think it's all about understanding as well, and not the fear,
Yeah.
but not understanding. But what are some of the first small steps to start investing, even in small amounts of money? What tips do you have?
Um, well, I would say work with a coach, work with a
Mhm.
financial coach, have them educate you and help you understand what it is that you're doing. There's a lot of good information online. There's a lot of bad information online. You got to be
Mm.
careful on who you learn from. If you're, in the States, we have Vanguard, Fidelity, Schwab. We've got these large investment companies, and you can call them, have a conversation, and say, I've got X number of dollars. I'm really scared. I don't understand investing. I need to really get a handle on what to do with this money. And sometimes they will guide you. They won't give you formal financial advice unless you work with one of their advisors and you pay that fee. Um, but the more you read, the more you understand, the more comfort you have with just investing yourself,
Mhm.
um, you will jump in. And it really comes down to understanding. It really just does. It comes down to feeling safe and secure in your decisions, and that confidence that you'll gain from your your learning about it. And that's true with anything. I mean, anything in life, right? Not even financially, but the more you learn about something, the more confident you become.
Exactly. Why do you think financial literacy is so lacking in society, especially for women these days? How can we improve that? Because for me, I wasn't into finance until I read one book, and that just flipped things around for me, which is Rich Dad Poor Dad. That was the first finance book, but ever since then, I'm
Mm,
always learning about finance. I'm watching, like, I knew nothing about the stock market, and I just by watching videos and learning, like understand a lot just continuously every day, instead of watching, like, wasting time on certain things like watching Netflix. Well, I do every now and then, but I'm learning constantly, but especially things I don't understand. I think everyone should do that, but
good for
we
you.
don't learn this in school, so you have to have the motivation and the drive to teach yourself. But yeah, from there, from my own self-learning, I learned about the stock market, I learned all the keywords, and I read further books and stuff. But
Good for you.
how can we improve that, especially the financial, because it's not taught in schools and whatnot as well, financial literacy.
Yeah. It's what's nice is I'm seeing some more schools in the States here starting to include personal finance and financial literacy in their courses. It's not core curriculum yet. I think it should be in every,
Mm,
school. I think someday we will get there, but it might be a while. But it really starts with that. It's either they've got to learn it in school or they've got to learn it at home. And if the parents aren't talking about it because they're not comfortable with it or they just
mm,
don't want to talk about it, they're not getting that information from their parents. And if they're not getting it there and they're not getting it at school, well, it's no wonder we're dealing with this crisis of these college kids coming out of college with all this debt, whether it's credit card debt from buying pizza and beer or
mhm,
whether it's school debt, right?
mm,
It's just, but that education is so important. And I was a huge advocate many years ago. I had a company where I was working with teens and I would do some work at schools. I've written a couple books for the teen market, and it's all about, yes, teaching these young adults how to invest, how to manage money in simple terms, no fancy jargon, no complicated lingo. Let's just break it down. And again, if they learn this very young, and the beautiful thing is, one of the most favorite things I love to do when I do any speaking to young adults is teach them the power of compound interest and the power of time, because they have so much time, and how a very little investment every month on their part would end up 40 years from now, 30 years from now when they retire. And it's always mind-boggling, because I'll show an example where they've only invested like $97,000 of their own money over the course of 40 years, but at the end of the 40 years they have $1 million. So the difference between that 97,000 and the million is all money that they've earned. It was compounding interest. It was compounding, dividends. It's all, the gains, and that's money working hard for them, not them working hard for the money.
mm.
So that's one of the main things I love to drive home to kids. It's like, if you start early, oh my gosh, what a difference.
Wow, that's great. Very inspiring. What practical money tips should every high school graduate know, in your opinion?
Yeah, just that, the whole power of compounding interest and the power of time, and if they make small investments now, which ties into, watching emotional spending. A lot of kids, and
Mm,
I understand. I was in high school once too, and I always wanted the fun, latest and greatest, this and that. And we didn't have cell phones in my day, but I know I'm aging myself. But um, you know, we all like to wear the nice clothes. We all like to have the
mhm,
fancy shoes, right? And at that age, we're all we all want to look good. We want to impress the boys and, or the girls or whatever. And it's important to keep that in kind of in check. Yes, it's important to have some fun and to have some fun with buying things that you like, but it's also being aware of, okay, is this immediate gratification going to cost me my long-term gratification? Is this going to cost me my financial freedom day? Is because I'm trying to impress my neighbor, is that going to cost me the day that I can retire? And I'm of the mindset is like, I don't give a flying fig about my neighbors and what they think of me. If it's going to
mhm,
address my retirement day or affect my family and my loved ones, I'm going to do what's best for my community in my home, right? Not what's best for me trying to prove to the world that I've made it. And
mm,
I think a lot of society unfortunately gets stuck in that. So if kids can understand that, and then it's also important for kids to really understand credit, because if they don't understand credit and how to get a good credit score, that's a very costly mistake down the road as well.
I think even that applies to adults as well. But I
Yeah,
can say a story. But before I read that book and before my mindset shifted on finance, I used to love shopping, online shopping every week. Every morning I'd be shopping, looking for bargains and deals. And then after reading that book, it just totally, it took some time because that gratification that you get when you receive your package, your clothes and whatnot.
yeah,
I didn't do it just to impress me, but I just, I love buying clothes and like every woman, shoes, clothes, bags, whatever.
sure,
But now it's just like I don't rarely shop because there's only so much stuff that you can buy, and then it's just going to sit there
yeah,
building clutter in your house, and it's not going to add any value or make any money for you. So now I flip things around, and instead of buying things that don't make money, I always think, what's going to make me money? What's going to help save time, but what's also like, yeah, is this an investment? Just like the book, is it a liability or is it an asset? So for me,
yeah,
if I do want to splurge, it'd be on holidays for the experience, not on, materialistic things. So I think
yeah.
memories is more important than just having so much consumerism. But yeah, everybody's different, and that takes a little bit of knowledge and learning to be able to get to that level, I believe.
Yeah, I have seen that you mentioned the memories. The the Gen Zs are more focused on experiences
Mm,
than the material items. They want to go and they want to travel. They want to experience things in life. They want to make those memories, and that is something we can all learn from. I mean, I'm a boomer, so it's really important for me to make memories with my son, and his fiance and my family, and as much as I can. We never know when our last day on earth is, right? And there's that balance between preparing for the future and enjoying life today, and um, realizing, like I said, we don't know our end day, but we don't want to be at 85 or 90 and be out of money, right? So it's a delicate balance. You've got to just really be mindful of what you're doing, and just be aware. But I do think it's important for us to enjoy our life. I do think it's important to make those memories and have those experiences. Um, but I don't think it's necessary to buy $1,000 purse.
mm, exactly. Yep. Unless you can resell it back. What inspired you to write books like Woman Soaring Solo? On like, yeah, with the books that you write, what inspired you the most?
Yeah, the Women Starting Solo is actually an ebook that's free, and it came from a combination of things that I did when I was going through my divorce that helped me kind of get through it, financially and emotionally. There was a lot of things that I did just to come out from underneath that black cloud and get back to Patty. I got lost in my marriage, and I was quite the mess coming out. So yeah, I wrote that just really from a place of my experiences, and then the financial tips that women need to get going. So yeah, that's a free ebook. I've written some other books that are available on Amazon, and those again were more focused on the youth, the young adults, the high school and college age kid. But I've had attorneys read it and tell me they've learned something. So it's really for anybody, but it's just written in such simple terms and simple language that a high schooler can understand it.
Wow. And have there been any books or authors that have made a massive impact and helped you with your life and in your success as well, especially in finance world or in general?
Yeah, there's been a lot of books. I'm gonna look at my bookshelf here. From a financial place, I really like Jean Chatzky and I like Susie Orman. Um, I'm not gonna say who I don't like. I'm just gonna focus on who I do like. Um, I'll keep it good. On another level, I love Marie Folio for just life coaching. Jim Quick is a brain coach. He's
Mm,
wonderful.
mm.
Peter Crone is a wonderful educator, and again, he's a personal development person. I'm a personal development junkie, and I think we as holistic human beings, we're all tied financially, emotionally, spiritually, mentally. It's we're all this being. So I don't just read just financial books. I mean, I've
Mm.
studied finances for so many years, and I, got all my licenses when I was a financial advisor, and I thought, okay, enough of that. I'm keeping up with things, but I'm not spending my days learning so much about finance stuff. It's more personal development, other ways that I can be healthy,
Mm.
because if I'm healthy and strong, then I can be a better version of Patty.
Yeah. Amazing. What's one piece of advice you want to leave with our audience?
I would say I've said this before on other podcasts, give yourself grace when you are navigating, especially a very difficult time in your life, such as a divorce or your husband passed or wife passed, and you're dealing with grief and emotions. Take care of you. Give yourself grace. Don't be hard on yourself because you don't understand this or that. We all start from ground, level at something in our life. Everybody has started at zero at some point, right? And there's a lot of shame and embarrassment that I hear, a common theme with women. And what I say to that is, you know, when someone says, "Do you speak Italian or do you speak French?" I say, "No, I don't. I never taught it. I never learned it. I didn't learn it in school. I didn't learn it at home. So no, I don't learn it." There's no shame in that, right? It's just I never learned it. I never needed to learn it. I want to learn Italian, but it's the same thing. If you never learned personal finance, if you never were taught in school and you weren't taught at home, and your husband or your wife took care of the monies, and that's just the circumstances. Okay, now it's time to jump in and both feet, and let's move forward. Let's just move forward. So, um, long answer to your question is just give yourself some grace and allow yourself the time to learn and enjoy the journey. Just enjoy the
Yeah.
journey.
Beautiful. Finally, where can people find you if they want to follow you?
The best way to find me is my website, which is just the pattyhandy.com. It's Patty with an I, Patti, and then Handy. That's where you can find the free download of the book, the Women Sewing Solo ebook. And there's information on there, and you can contact me via my contact page. And that's kind of the best place to start.
Beautiful. Thank you. Thank you so much for your time, Patti.
Thank you, Linda. I loved being a part of the show. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you.